All right, so to begin, we are going to take off this engine cover. It's only clipped on at the back, so we'll have to unbolt it from the front first. It's supposed to have 3 5mm Allen bolts. Mine only has 2. The center one is missing, but whatever yours has, remove it. There's one. They look a little weird, but take them out. Grab it from the back side, lift it up, and then pull it off the front. Now to get to these VVT solenoids, after the engine cover is off, let's remove this hose here to make some space. Remove the hose clamp, twist this off, and you can either just leave it right here or pull it off like I will. That way it's completely out of your way. There we go, set that aside. Next, let's disconnect this hose over here. Squeeze the hose clamp and remove the hose. There we go, set that aside. Let's get this out of our way. There we go, don't forget where that goes. And at this point, let's see what else. Let's get this out of our way so we can get to the back one. I'm gonna do both at the same time, so it only makes sense. If you need to replace both, just do them both at the same time. Okay, that's out of our way. Although not enough out of our way, so another hose clamp here gets this side off. Sometimes if the hoses are stuck, you can give them a light twist with your pliers, but just be very careful when you do this because you don't want to break the hose. There we go. Pull that off and push that to the side. And I think at this point we have very clear access to both of them. So let's get a 10mm. So here's the front variable valve timing solenoid. Let's unplug it. Sometimes, you know, those pliers are your friend when it comes to unplugging these connectors, and either because they're stuck or because, well, yeah, that happens often too. Not just because I use needle nose pliers, but sometimes it helps you get a better grip on it, and I'll show you a trick on how to re-secure that at the end so that it's nice and safe. With a 10mm, unbolt this, remove the bolt, and at this point it's going to be a little bit stuck in here, so sometimes you need pliers. I guess in my case I didn't, but if you give it a twist with pliers, usually it breaks free. Oil will come out of it because it's activated with oil pressure, so keep that in mind. But here's your variable valve timing solenoid. Let's grab the new one. Here's your new VVT solenoid. This is optional, but you can put a little bit of engine oil on this O-ring here, which I did. That way it doesn't slide and dry, and it has some lubricant actually seat itself in there. Now slide it down into its mounting hole here, and make sure there's no debris that goes in with it, of course. Move this hose out of your way, and it'll be a tight fit, because it's meant to be a tight fit, but you'll know once it slides in. And make sure it goes in all the way and it's seated. You know that when this bracket touches up against the mounting plate here. Let's get the little bolt back in place so we can secure it. Tighten it up. Make sure it goes in nice and smooth and make it snug. Okay, don't go crazy tight on this because it'll strip out. And at this point, you can reconnect it. And here's a little trick that I have for you for securing these. So what I'm going to do to secure this is just take a wire tie, feed it through, and I'm going to bring it underneath the solenoid right here. And just secure it that way. Unless you get a new connector, this is probably the best you're going to be able to do. So just as long as it's secure and it doesn't come off, you should be good. Okay, nice and tight. Cut off the excess, of course. Well, now let's do the rear one. Okay, squeeze this and remove it. This one broke as well. That's very common. That's all right. We'll secure that one with a wire tie as well. Push the connector off. Okay, 10mm socket, unbolt it. Try not to drop that bolt. There we go. Okay, so I got some bigger locking pliers on here, and I'm just gonna wiggle it back and forth and pull up at the same time. There we go. That did the trick. And remove this rear one. Again, there's oil coming out of it, so be careful. Make sure none of this debris actually falls into that hole. Grab your new one and slide it down and in. Again, pay attention to the debris so that it doesn't get in there. Slide it all the way down. Make sure it locks in. That O-ring has to seat in there. I'm going to grab the end of my hammer and guide it down and in. There it goes. Now it's in. Snug it up. Now let's plug the connector back in. And I'll grab a wire tie and secure it. Okay, pull it through and feed it through the connector there. Okay, that's good enough. It'll hold it in there. Cut off the excess. Perfect. Okay, let's get all these hoses reconnected. Make sure it gets on, pushed on all the way. Put the clamp back. And then this one had this one attached to it as well. Get that one back. Okay. Next, there was a small one that went here. Put that back, and then there was this bigger one that went underneath, like that. Went onto, oops, that's split, so gotta grab a new hose. Otherwise, we'll get a vacuum leak. Okay, so I got a new piece of vacuum hose. Let's put it back to where it belongs. Make sure it's clamped on. And make sure it's fully bottomed out, seated where it needs to be. Clamp it. Perfect. Let's get this hose back on. Push that on all the way. Clamp that down. Just like that. And then push this insulation back so you can reattach this side. Okay, make sure that's seated, and let's put the clamp back. Perfect. Let's get the engine cover on. On the back side, you can line up this. This is the Lexus emblem. It has a hole here that attaches to this stud. You want to line up the front studs with these holes. Press this down, lock it in. I only had 2, but of course if you have 3, put them all back. Perfect.